Tradition. You can't buy it. It's earned the hard way over decades and eras. On the field, on the road, in the mud. With guts and with grit, and firm belief that today could be our day. The Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup is back. Still alive, still kicking, the oldest prize in American soccer. 96 teams, part-timers to major leaguers. Survive and move on, lose, and you go home. So we call all underdogs, dreamers, and believers. And we ask you again, one simple question. Are you up for the cup?
The first round of the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup rolls on from Highland Heights, Kentucky tonight, where debutantes FC Cincinnati 2 look to avoid becoming the latest next pro side to suffer the dreaded cup set, but they square off against one of the premier amateur squads in New York Pancyprian Freedoms. We welcome you here inside NKU Soccer Stadium alongside the former Guyana national team captain, Chris Nurse. I'm Sam Goldfarb. Time to look at the clubs participating. FC Cincinnati 2, technically the first time they've competed in this competition. However, the parent club, FC Cincinnati, has reached the U.S. Open Cup semifinals in the past. They're hoping to carry on the legacy as they begin in the first round. On the other side, New York Pancyprian Freedoms, three-time U.S. Open Cup and Cup winners, Chris, and now they are looking to make some noise in their first appearance since 2016.
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic matchup for Cincinnati 2. If you're banging on the door of the MLS first team, you need to be able to go and beat amateur teams convincingly. So this is a great test for some of these younger players. Obviously, there's different profiles between the two teams. New York Pancyprian Freedoms have a vast range of ages in their squad, some young players and some older players. Cincinnati is predominantly a younger team.
And speaking of that age disparity, you'll see it in the lineups here. For FC Cincinnati 2, a lot of younger players trying to break into the first team. Pancyprian Freedoms, you mentioned it, all over the docket. And Joseph Holland, the 31-year-old with USL experience, is the player to watch.
Yeah, and experience has a huge impact in games. Although you'd expect FC Cincinnati 2 to have a lot of technical players, young players with lots of energy, when it comes to cup competitions and knowing how to win, experience really does have an influence on that.
Well, it should make for an intriguing clash here at NKU Soccer Stadium. It is Pancyprian Freedoms in the royal blue kits with white numbers, FC Cincinnati 2 in their white kits with the blue hoops across the chest. First ever meeting between these two clubs. FC Cincinnati 2, a team that began in 2022 ahead of the inaugural Next Pro campaign. Pancyprian Freedoms, a squad that has a vast history of dominance in this very competition.
You can already see how the teams are lined up. 5-3-2. Looking up against probably a more traditional that we see these games, 4-3-3.
We spoke to Andreas Kronis, the head man for Pancyprians, who is a former player, his first year as a coach, retired to coach this very squad. And he is very confident about their prospects in this match. He says, I feel top to bottom, our players are more skilled. And we will see if that is able to make up for the professional versus amateur disparity we have on display tonight.
Which is a pretty strong statement to make. You know, you have young players who are knocking, well, fingers crossed, knocking on the door of the MLS team of Cincinnati, and you have an amateur team saying that player for player, you feel like your roster is stronger. If I'm an FC Cincinnati 2 player, I'll probably take that a little bit of insulting and feel like I have a point to prove if that's what the head coach or the opponents thinks about me.
Definitely will be bulletin board material for sure. This is snatched back. Looking for Holland, who is the man they play through. Andres Kronis says he manufactures something out of nothing every game, never fails to deliver, and his immaculate maturity at 31 years old is the talisman for this Pancyprian side.
You can already see Pancyprian are planning to make this game very difficult for Cincinnati. 11 players behind the ball in a 5-3-2 formation makes it very difficult to get space in the wide areas, to get space in behind, or to play in between the lines. So they're adopting a tactic in the game to frustrate Cincinnati and potentially exploit them on the counter-attack. It's going to be very interesting to see if they're able to regain possession of the ball and how they're able to utilize it.
And when we talked to Pancyprian's coaching staff, they said precisely that is the approach, trying to make them work themselves and then catching them on the break. It's a Cincinnati squad that realistically trains together 5 times a week and is in better physical condition. And Pancyprians doesn't want to run themselves ragged too far early on. Comes out wide to Hurtado. Lovely switch towards Caicedo. It's charged away. Restino giving chase, one of the top goal scorers on this Pancyprian side with 9 in the EPSL Metropolitan Conference campaign. Pancyprians currently topping the Metropolitan Conference, already 3-time champions of that conference. Since joining the EPSL, a force to be reckoned with. Adventurous run, Caicedo in space. Cutting it back across. It's cleared before it can reach the goalkeeper, Josh Levine.
It's a great cutback here. Pancyprian should be able to defend this better, having 5 players up at the back, but they do manage to get into the wide areas. A good ball into the box. It's Mbomadem, I think, who is unable to connect with this cleanly, but it's a great opportunity for Cincinnati to take the lead in the opening 5 minutes.
Speaking of young pros who've had a lot of success, and Mbomadem, 7 goals, 5 assists a season ago, the top creative playmaker outside of maybe Peter Mangione for this FC Cincinnati 2 squad, which competes in MLS Next Pro. A rocky start to their season, though, Chris, dropping each of their first 2 contests after finishing atop the East a season ago.
Yeah, and I think, you know, as you mentioned, a rocky start. This game today should be an opportunity for them to pick up a win, start to build confidence and momentum as a group, and hopefully kick on from there. Even though it's obviously not going to count to their regular season standards, it's important to get wins early in the season to build confidence and momentum in the team. So I imagine they're putting out a very strong lineup tonight for that exact reason. They want to advance in the tournament, but they also want to pick up a win and start to build that confidence and momentum throughout the group.
This is Aaron, and Restino is penalized for his challenge after the fact. Well, actually, it sounds against Chirilla, Andre Chirilla in the book for Cincinnati 2 here.
Yeah, I think he goes down and he takes matters into his own hands. He should really clear the ball here. He tries to turn and then he impedes play by collecting the ball with his hands, almost like a goalkeeper.
So it sets up Pancyprians in a very appetizing set-piece spot. And we've mentioned a number of players who are known for their quality deliveries, including, of course, number 10 in blue in Holland, who has quite a right boot to his name. It's an early yellow against Andre Chirilla, 16-year-old center back. It is Holland and Matthew Forster in the immediate vicinity here. Holland to take, and it winds up routinely into the gloves of Paul Walters, the first teamer.
Yeah, nothing too threatening about that strike. I think what you do have with Pancyprians here is a proper semi-professional outfit where most of these guys have working professional jobs throughout the day and they train together in the evenings and they are compensated for their time. So they do take these games and their training as serious as a professional team, but obviously their days look a little bit different to how Cincinnati 2's days may look. But you're looking at players who have played in the league at professional levels, young players who are aspiring to get to professional levels. So it's a very, very serious semi-professional outfit, I would say. Very similar to what you may see sometimes in the FA Cup in England.
Andres Krohn has said it himself, a lot of our players are talented enough to play in the pros, but they've opted to pursue professional careers in other fields and are still playing football at a very high level. Says many of his players, especially his standouts, he believes that if they took 4 months to train, would be quality professionals in the American ranks.
I'm not sure 4 months is sufficient enough to warrant that kind of title. But it's always good to see that level of confidence and belief in your players.
They look through here, and Cincinnati nearly unlocking this Pancyprian's back line.
Some great build-up play here from Cincinnati. Just continues his run through the middle there. Locker, last-minute tackle there, sees it go out of play. But Cincinnati have created a decent amount of opportunities in these opening 7 minutes, despite Pancyprians having 11 players behind the ball, playing a very deep block. They've been unable to stop Cincinnati from breaking them and penetrating them and getting in behind them. It's not as cohesive and compact as they would like.
Blocker, the 17-year-old, a former St. Louis City Academy product who broke into the second-team ranks a year ago. Now moving to the FC Cincinnati Academy, and has been a key feature in the early season squad for FCC2.
And as you spoke about, Sam, some strong statements about players being a player for player, Pancyprian believing that they're better. In these opening 10 minutes, they've not really displayed that. They've struggled to create any chances. They've struggled to hold any kind of meaningful possession. So in order to back up that statement, we're going to have to see a change in their approach to this game. They've sat back a lot, allowing Cincinnati to have possession of the ball, Cincinnati to create goal-scoring opportunities. It can only continue to go one direction if they continue to approach the game in that manner. They've got to try and stamp a foothold on the game, possession of the ball, create goal-scoring chances, start to show some of the experience that they have in the squad.
Do they have something brewing here?
Of course, normally at this stage of the season, and we're looking at these matchups, the MLS Next Pro teams are 2 games into their season. They've had a pre-season. For Pancyprians, they're also pretty deep into their season, so it's not like they're coming into this phase unfit or without much practice. They're pretty strong in terms of where they are in their season also. Coming off a strong tie at the weekend, but most of the results have been pretty strong wins in their favor.
Yeah, to your point, Chris, a side that competes in the Metropolitan Conference. The first half of the season runs from late August to the end of December. And then the second half starts in early March. They're 3 matches in. They won their first 2 matches by a combined 15-3 scoreline before a draw in the Hellenic Derby this weekend. 1-1 against the New York Greek Americans. Obviously, Pancyprians and the Greek Americans, 2 sides with many ties to Greece, and Pancyprians a tie to Cyprus as well. Club president Philip Christopher is the founder of the Pancyprian Association of America, and unsurprisingly, that appears in Pancyprian's badge on the pitch. Just inside the opening 10 minutes here from NKU Soccer Stadium. Sam Goldfarb, Chris Nurse on hand. First round action of the Lamar Hunt US Open Cup. It's FC Cincinnati 2 out of MLS Next Pro and New York Pancyprian Freedoms out of the EPSL in the Metropolitan Conference. The top ties here in round 1. McGriff, this is a loose pass. Winds up back to the feet of Josh Levine, who boasts some high-level college experience during his time at Fordham University, an elite A10 program. Argudo. Terrific ball over the top towards Thristino, and the flag is raised before he can lash at that one.
Good opportunity. Would have liked to see him display his quality and bury it into the back of the net. Despite the offside flag, it's still a great chance to get your first shot on target. Brilliant ball over the top here. Argudo recognizes the space. Thristino makes the run in behind. But even had he been onside, he still thrashes that shot wide away from the target.
Thristino is dangerous, though. 9 goals in the current Metropolitan Conference season at 27 years old. He and Joe Holland bagged the joint most goals in the National Amateur Cup. Of course, that's how Pancyprians qualified for their first Open Cup since 2016, winning the National Amateur Cup in 2024, the first such achievement for this club, which has so many, including 3 U.S. Open Cup titles to its name.
They're going to have to be very clinical in the opportunities that they get. As you can see with the low block, they're counter-attacking, which means they're not going to have a ton of chances in this game. And the few chances that they have, they're going to have to be very clinical to keep themselves in a chance of progressing to the next round. As you can see, FC Cincinnati have then the vast majority of possession of the ball.
Gift cuts this out only momentarily.
And Pancyprian's pretty comfortable and confident to allow Cincinnati to have that possession. The problem is, over the course of 90 minutes, they keep possession of the ball, they keep moving Pancyprians around, and they'll start to run out of energy. If they're able to move the ball quickly, they'll be able to create holes in their defensive shape, and that's when they'll be able to take advantage of them. They may be playing the long game rather than the short game. Of course, being at home, being the higher tier team, they'd want to take an early lead, but it's not necessarily the end of the world if they're unable to do that.
Blocker. He's looking for Mbomadem. Comes to Mangione. Space here for a cross, perhaps.
You can see FC Cincinnati do a good job of when the ball goes into wide areas. They're able to get at least 3 players around the ball, creating 3v2 situations, and then trying to play little give and goes and getting behind.
We've already seen some success with that. They nearly unlocked Pancyprians inside about 5 minutes with one of those 1-2s.
Yeah, the wide players for Pancyprians, Forster and McGiff, really have to do a good job of showing the players inside where they have numerical superiority.
That's claimed by Levine. Well, it's your first proper look at Pancyprian's #1 between the sticks. Josh Levine, the Rockville Center, New York native, on Long Island, key piece in the 2024 National Amateur Cup winning run. And a Fordham University graduate who was elite during his time in the Atlantic 10 after 3 seasons with Penn State. Cincinnati charging ahead again. This runs out of play for the match's first quarter tonight.
As much as you're looking at the game for Cincinnati, you're trying to identify that standout performer who has the skill set and the capability to make the first team at some point in the future. And in the opening 50 minutes, there's no one we've really been able to identify that says this young player looks like he's going to become the next star in the MLS. It's going to be interesting to see if it becomes more evident as the game continues.
Here's an in-swinger, heart of the area. Fell for Caicedo only briefly. And now a Pancyprians player is down. Appears to be Thristino. And if this is the case, that would be a point of concern for Pancyprian supporters.
Maybe just a collision of heads there at the back. Thristino, the striker, back doing his defensive work from corner kicks. But yeah, you're looking for that young player who separates themselves from your amateur semi-professional team with their movement, with their speed, with their decision-making, with their quality in possession. You know, you're looking for the next star who's essentially in this squad trying to break through to the first team.
Of course, last season going forward, FC Cincinnati 2, not renowned for its prowess in the final third, a team that only managed 47 goals. What really set them apart was their defense. They were the 3rd best defense in MLS Next Pro, which allowed them to win the Eastern Conference at least regular season. Problem was, they ran into Crown Legacy and they conceded 2 and ultimately didn't have the answers the other way.
Yeah, defense provides you the foundation to be successful, and then you're relying on the talent and the quality in the attacking third to make things happen. In the attacking third, everything happens so instinctively. It's very difficult to train patterns or to train habits because everything is a reaction or just recognizing space and having the quality to execute. And you want to give players the creativity and the freedom to make those decisions for themselves.
Not much in that. we're beyond the opening quarter of an hour. And so far, a game of cat and mouse seems to be developing.
And I think psychologically right now, the scoreline plays into the favor of Pancyprians. Obviously, we spoke about the difficult start that Cincinnati have had to their next pro season. They would have wanted to get an early goal in this game, and Pancyprians keeping themselves in the game 0-0 after 15 minutes. The pressure will start to build on these FC Cincinnati players where they feel like they need to prove a point, and that's where mistakes can be made. That's where players start to make bad choices, and there's an opportunity there for Pancyprians to capitalize on that.
McGiff won this back briefly. It was Caicedo who intervened. Talking to Andreas Kronis, he said, we are going to wait for some weaknesses to open up or giveaways and pounce on those on the counter. That is the approach to this match.
There's definitely a collective, patient approach from Pancyprians to this game. Everybody defensively is staying tuned in on the same page. Nobody's leaving the block and going chasing on their own. They're being very disciplined in how they defend right now. As we spoke about, it can be a little bit more tight, a little bit more compact, because Cincinnati have found a way to break behind.
They nearly found Tega Ikoba, the new signing from Portland Timbers. And Bomadem. Looking through for Caicedo in plenty of space, just beyond the reach of Tega Ikoba at the back stick.
Brilliant through passing here. Just the final delivery from Caicedo, just lacked quality. Great ball there in the middle of the park. Ikoba, I think, is who plays the through ball in behind. But Caicedo just mishits that left-footed cross into the box. A little bit more quality and weight on the pass, and I think Cincinnati find themselves in the lead. But you can see how they're able to break through this Pancyprian defense despite having so many numbers behind the ball. It's not as concrete as they would like.
Ikoba and Dylan Hurtado in the immediate vicinity there. Offside flag raised against Cincinnati. Well, Chris, you've been in this position before, being a former USL man yourself. When you are the favored side at home, how do you handle that psychologically against a club that you know is amateur or not training in the same way you are?
It depends. When you're a younger player, maybe your mindset's a little bit different. If you have more senior players in your squad, then maybe you feel the pressure a little bit more. For many of these young players, of course, their goal is to be successful in all the games they play, but they have one eye on breaking into the first team. So they maybe focus a little bit more on their individual performances and maybe not so much feel that pressure that you feel as a team or as a club or wearing the badge of FC Cincinnati, so to speak. I think if you listen to the conversations from Pancyprians, they speak more about the legacy that they have as an organization. They speak more about advancing through the stages as a group. And I think as the game goes on, the players will find the importance. I think at halftime, the coach will definitely reassure the importance of the competition and what it means to go forward. And I think that's when you'll start to see a change in mentality from the players. But it's not maybe so normal for young players to approach the game with that mindset. As we spoke about, many of these players are just 16, 17 years old. It's their first opportunity of playing in the Open Cup, so they may not be as familiar with what it means to play in the competition or to win and advance in the competition. But that's the benefit of youth and experience and time, is that over time they'll learn these things, and getting exposure at this age is invaluable to them.
Right now, they've definitely looked the more confident of the two sides. There's Andre Chirilla, younger brother of the first teamer Stefan.
What's pretty interesting is that Pancyprians are not chasing the ball or pressing with any purpose or intensity. And I think that's what's allowing Cincinnati to be so comfortable in possession of the ball, is that they're not under any pressure. And I could play right now if you put me under no pressure. If you put me under pressure, it's a different story. And I think that's just allowing Cincinnati to control the team, take the tempo of the game. And I think I'm not going to say it's the right approach or the wrong approach. It's 0-0 after 20 minutes. But I think over time, allowing them to dictate the game, the flow of the game so easy, can only be detrimental.
And you see Cincinnati, even their back line, parked well beyond midfield at this stage.
Yeah, look at the amount of time and space that players have in possession of the ball. There's no pressure.
And they've worked it wide now. Hurtado.
I feel like in this area of the field, this is where they should be looking to engage and pressure the ball aggressively.
Caicedo.
And then if they are able to win that ball, then they have to be looking to counter-attack at full speed.
This is Yorkaev Caicedo, the 18-year-old Ecuadorian who joined from Club Deportivo Estudiantil.
I would say right now, Pancyprians are maybe guilty of showing a little bit too much respect to FC Cincinnati. If this was the first MLS team, then yes, I would 100% agree with their approach.
You look over the top now. It was Opeyemi who was through momentarily, and Bean is able to claim it.
But as the coach alluded to, they have a number of seasoned professionals who have played professional. They're young players aspiring to be professional. If you're playing against 16, 17-year-olds, maybe the oldest players right now are 23, you should be able to go and engage yourself and impose yourself on the game against these young players. And right now they're sitting back and allowing themselves to be dictated to.
It has been a very deferential approach, to your point. I wonder if part of that is fitness concerns, given that they know that they're training far less frequently than FCC2.
I'm not buying that. If you say that you think you're player for player better than them, then we're not taking excuses on fitness, sorry to say.
Fair enough.
We have to live up to our words.
Well, the only thing that really matters is the scoreline at the minute. And midway through this first half, still no score between FCC2 and New York Pancyprian Freedoms.
The problem is as you advance through the tournament, the teams obviously get better. And if this is you're going to be your approach in round 1, round 2, round 3, it's not going to look much better.
Well, Argudo won that back. And Nick Zalonka's breaking the other direction for Pancyprians. And Pancyprians with their first corner of the night.
We see where they do potentially have an opportunity to create problems for FC Cincinnati when they're able to win the ball, runs in behind, break quickly. Set pieces, of course, is always a dangerous opportunity to get yourself on the score sheet.
You would fancy the counter and set pieces to be their two biggest area of threat tonight, right?
Of course, and if you do have questions around fitness, then you've got to try to maintain possession of the ball, because you work a lot harder from a fitness perspective when you don't have possession of the ball, as you do when you are controllable.
Holland with in swing, a good ball to Zalonka, and snatched out of the air by Walters. It's not a bad effort, Chris.
Not a bad effort, but Walters was well positioned here. This could have gone anywhere. It's actually a free header in the end. Poor marking inside the box from FC Cincinnati.
It appears by his reaction, Zalonka knows it too.
Yeah, Zalonka found himself all alone.
He was an elite goal scorer in the college ranks, especially at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Spent last season in 2024 at Kentucky. Goals didn't quite translate as fluidly, but was still a threat in the final third.
I think if you're Pancyprians, you're pretty happy with the scoreline after 25 minutes. I think if you're FC Cincinnati, you're looking to step it up a little bit. For the possession you have, you want to create more scoring opportunities. The ball needs to move a little bit quicker to unlock Pancyprian's defense and create more gaps in them.
Caicedo's been the danger man tonight, and he is chopped at the knees. McGiff is the man penalized. And a yellow shown.
Poorly timed tackle. Caicedo picking up the ball and driving inside. Probably wasn't too much need to make that tackle. There's a good amount of bodies in front of him. Gives away a free kick in a dangerous area.
Well, it's Augustus McGiff who is bilked. The 22-year-old playing in midfield tonight.
I'm not too sure I'm pleased with the booking. Given the earlier chance that Pancyprians had when the defender goes down and picks up the ball with his hands, makes no attempt to play the ball. In this instance, he's making an attempt to play the ball and gives away a free kick. One stops the play from advancing, the other's trying to... I'm not sure both instances are equal.
Either way, sets up Mboma Dem and Peter Mangione in pretty decent set piece range. Definitely favors the right foot.
Two-man wall, you normally have a couple more players from this distance.
And Mboma Dem delivers it in. Nearly fell for Opeyemi. Hurtado loses out. And this is Zalanka. Holland.
That's the problem Pancyprian are facing. Even when they win possession of the ball, because they're so deep, they don't have anybody forward that they can use as an outlet. So they're having to play the ball backwards, even when they're able to win the ball sometimes and have good opportunities to counterattack.
We rapidly approach the half-hour mark, and as things stand, run of play vastly favors the orange and blue. Still nothing to show for it on the score sheet just yet.
I have coached tennis. I used to coach tennis for a principal teacher. So no, I don't coach anymore. But I can coach.
If you are just joining us, we welcome you into NKU Soccer Stadium. It is a chilly night in northern Kentucky. Temperatures just south of 40 degrees, 15-mile-an-hour winds as well. Hence the sleeves tonight.
Because he's freaking skinny.
30 years younger than you?
and like 60 pounds lighter. Good God. But no, he can't beat me in tennis.
Here's Schaefer, the former first-round pick in the 2024 MLS Super Draft.
If you're interested in what those possession stats might be right now, 75% possession in favor of FC Cincinnati, just 25% possession for Pancyprians.
Pretty glaring. Holland hoping to change the run of play, though. A terrific ball towards Thristino. And we'll wait for support. Argudo, the former MLS man.
Does a good job to hold up the border and keep his team in possession while allowing support to get up to join him.
Well, an interesting subplot in all of this. Luis Argudo, drafted by the Columbus Crew, of course, FC Cincinnati's arch rival. So we wonder if he has a parting gift for them on his way out of the MLS game, so to speak.
I get it because you're not a kid. Thristino's been fairly active for Pancyprians in this opening 30 minutes. He's been the player making runs forward, in behind the back line, holding up possession of the ball. They just need to spend a little bit more time in the attacking third. They haven't been there too often so far in this game.
Well, the space is beginning to open up for them a bit now. Thristino again. Unable to pick out Zalanka on the return pass. Holland. Well, it was a crafty ball forward, not an accurate one though.
Not even close. I would think the identity of this Pancyprian team is based upon maximum effort and intensity. I wouldn't say that they're sticking to their identity tonight. I would say that they may be deviating from their identity, and that's where some of the struggles may be. I feel like they would be more effective in this game if they were operating with maximum effort and with intensity. But they've been very, very passive in this game. And it may be the right tactic over the course of 90 minutes.
Well, Koba got his head to that. Still loose. Cut back for Mboma Dem. Follow up. Looks like perhaps a hand in the mix from Opiemi, and it all comes to nothing anyways.
Again, at FC Cincinnati here banging on the door. The ball just ping-ponging around inside the box. They do a good job of keeping it alive. Good strike here. Defensive block that I'm not sure he knew too much about. Knocks him off his feet. And then a wild effort there at the end from Opiemi. Sees Pancyprian receive a throw-in, but yeah, as we were just discussing, max effort and intensity. I feel like they would have far more success in these opening 30 minutes, depending on how we define success. 0-0 against the FC Cincinnati team could be defined as success. But I feel like if they put their intensity, their ID, their stamp, be themselves, I feel like they'd have more success so far in these opening 30 minutes. I think they're being a version that maybe they're not that familiar with right now.
Mangione, it falls for Peter Mangione. He's just unable to keep it down, but it was one for the cameras that.
Again, FC Cincinnati crowed in, keeping the ball alive in and around the 18-yard box. Mangione just unable to get as much contact on the ball as he would have liked. But most of the opportunities coming for FC Cincinnati, just lacking quality in the attacking third to capitalize.
To your point about the intensity, how much of it do you feel is saving the energy reserves for when tired legs set in for Cincy in the second?
I'm not sure Cincy will suffer from tired legs. They've had the possession of the ball, which means that they're conserving more energy than using energy. If anybody's going to get tired from not having the ball, it's going to be the Pancyprian team.
They've definitely suffered out of possession a fair bit through this opening half hour.
And if you're probably looking at depth in roster, you would envision that FC Cincinnati 2 will have significant depth in their roster where they can bring changes into the game that should be able to elevate the intensity as the game continues.
We briefly alluded to it off the top. Next pro teams competing in the US Open Cup haven't had a fun go of it in this first round. Real Monarchs falling, of course, to El Farolito last night. A few other results that didn't break the league's way. So a trend that Cincinnati is hoping to buck tonight. They win yet another corner.
Yeah, if you're the underdog and you really go and have a go at these teams, they're there to be beaten, so to speak. You're playing against young kids that don't have experience. They do have enthusiasm, they have technique, they have talent, but they don't have the nuance of experience of knowing how to win games. Especially when intense, you're playing against grown men, physically stronger than you. It all has a big impact when you really fully impose yourself on the game.
The corner came towards Andre Chirilla, and there was a final touch off of a Cincinnati player, according to our official tonight. But it wasn't just Real Monarchs. I don't know how much you can call this even a cup set, but Des Moines last night going to Sporting KC2 and Benny Feilhaber winning against the club he used to coach. Technically is considered one.
Yeah, I mean, Des Moines, it's not your normal upset. They're known for upsets because of the rosters and the caliber of players that they consistently put out. And they live up to the expectations of those players.
Hearing word that Pancyprians is readying an early change already.
I get summers off all the time.
Caicedo. He stood up at the source by McGiff. And well beyond the reach of Salonka.
Yeah, that's where when they win the ball, they have to be able to keep it with some quality. They do a good job of winning back the ball there, but then they immediately give it back to FC Cincinnati to restart the attack.
Well, the change we're hearing is at wingback. We're hearing Pablo Herrera is getting set to replace Augustus McGiff.
It's an interesting change at 35 minutes. You imagine there had to be some injury or discomfort with just 10 minutes to half time, and you know they've done a very good job of keeping FC Cincinnati quiet and staying in the game. You wouldn't change anything at this stage unless there's somebody's uncomfortable, there's an injury.
Especially in the first half. McGiff is on a yellow. I don't believe that's the only reason, though. Well, the change taking place. So it's a welcome opportunity for Pablo Herrera, albeit in unfortunate circumstances. The Madrid native and the Adelphi University product, Adelphi, a school in the New York area, is entering the fray. Scored a few matches ago against Zum Schneider on March 2nd. So he replaces McGiff in the early stages of this. Herrera spent his college days in the United States. He ended his career with Adelphi University. Began his career at Delta State in the D2 ranks. Playing the Spanish 4th tier before that. It's an adventurous ball towards Mboma Dem. Jack Sloyce takes care of it. Another corner for FC Cincinnati, too.
Good cover in there from Sloyce, but we see again FC Cincinnati attacking in these channels in the wide areas, runs in behind. It's a good ball in behind. Sloyce just does a good job of covering.
They're racking up the set pieces now. Very little final product to show for it, though. Fourth corner. Toward the back post. It's still loose. Chirilla! Deflected and stabbed out of danger.
The chances racking up now for FC Cincinnati. Second ball's in the box, ball's falling to the edge of the area. You can only imagine it's a moment of time before one of these ends up nestling in the back of the net. Sustaining the pressure on Pancyprians.
If you are Pancyprians, you almost have to play a mental game about reaching halftime, right?
Look at the space that Opeyemi has in the attacking half to receive that ball in the half turn and play forward. If you're going to pack it in behind the ball, you've got to get pressure onto the ball. You can't allow players to just pick up the ball in time and space in dangerous areas where they can play forward. They're going to hurt you.
They've continued to twist the screws throughout the majority of this first half. Peter Mangione. That was loose. Zalanka sprinting the other way. And Schaefer takes care of it.
Rather than putting the pressure on to win the ball, it looks like Pancyprians are just happy to wait for FC Cincinnati to make the mistake and then try to capitalize against. Here we see the ball loose in the box. A lot of bodies behind the ball able to shut it down.
Defense has remained strong so far for Pancyprians. Argudo. On the half turn now. Holland. Thristino. Closed down instantly by Caicedo. Well, we approach the business end of this first half. Pancyprians has thrown a few warning shots Cincinnati's way, but largely one-way traffic for the bulk of this first half.
Yeah, I think if Pancyprians can get to halftime without conceding, they'll start to believe more in themselves. And it'll be important for the head coach to instill more belief in themselves and let them go out in the second half and really have a go at the game. They've kept it 0-0. They're very much still in it. Now they need to be a little bit more aggressive and put this Cincinnati team under pressure and see if they're able to play in the same way once they're under pressure.
NKU Soccer Stadium in Highland Heights, Kentucky. Just under 9 miles from TQL Stadium where the first team plays. This is the normal home patch for FC Cincinnati 2 throughout their MLS Next Pro matches. Thristino again. Holland has been the go-to whenever they need someone to control it tonight.
Forwards for Pancyprian aren't getting a great deal of quality service. They're getting balls just played in behind that they can chase, but nothing with real quality where they can hold it up and get support from their teammates up the field.
There's Kenji Mboma Dem. A lively start to his night, has been bottled up since. Adnan. If you are Cincinnati, how do you cope with perhaps any frustration that mounts from this?
I think they've got to find a central player who has the capability of attracting pressure and then being able to play penetrating balls in behind. You've seen the success they've been able to have in the wide areas, but they need a player with the individual capability to be able to unlock this defense, who has the ability to play the killer pass, has the ability to receive and play in tight spaces, and maybe the ability to convert chances from distance himself. I think so far everything has been, most of the attacks have been from wide areas. There's been nobody who's really been that creator, that creative number 10 in the center of the park who's feeding the strikers or feeding the wingers. When a team's playing this defensively, sometimes you need a player with that individual ability to create something out of nothing.
I've not seen that magic moment yet for FC Cincinnati too. Holland. First proper touch of the night for Herrera. Lays it off, Zelonka. CC2 able to play out again. Numbers surging forward for the orange and blue. And Boma Dem.
Pancyprian did a good job of transitioning to defense there. They got 8 bodies behind the ball extremely quickly, just snuffing FC Cincinnati's 2 opportunity to counter-attack.
Clever from Caicedo. Flashing it all the way across. Deflected effort and claimed routinely by Levine. Who, despite Pancyprian's being on the back foot, has had very little to do tonight.
It's a very tame effort in the end there from FC Cincinnati.
Still looking for that final bit of invention inside the penalty area. So many attacks and promising moments fizzling for FC Cincinnati too in the final third.
The young FC Cincinnati team have been the aggressors in this half in terms of possession, chances created, maybe just lacking that final definitely touch in the attacking third, a killer instinct. But they've definitely controlled the game, showed maturity in their ability to handle the ball.
Final minute of the opening 45. We've had very few stoppages in this first half of play. Still hearing we're going to have a few minutes of added time before intermission, though.
Look how deep FC Cincinnati 2 are in Pancyprian's half, and they're still not putting intense pressure on the ball or pressing to try and create a mistake or to win the ball back. They're happy to allow FC Cincinnati to have it that deep.
Ikoba, target man up front for FC Cincinnati.
And there's 2 ways to look at it. It could be a tremendous amount of respect for FC Cincinnati 2, or it could just be a case of they don't have the capability of hurting us with this distance, so you can allow them time and space because they're not going to be able to hurt you. It could be respect, it could be essentially disrespect by saying they don't know what to do in that situation. They're not going to be able to punish you. I guess we'll find out over the course of the game.
Caicedo back across to Opiemi. 3 minutes of added time separate us from intermission. Holland turning on the afterburners. The Hofstra University product, who was a top 10 MLS draft pick himself in 2017.
There's some good opportunity for the counter-attack here for Pancyprians, but as you saw, they don't really have those rockets to release on the counter-attack to get in behind. They do get the ball sometimes in behind, but almost every time it ends up turning and coming backwards.
Well, the question is there magic for either side before the break? Or will Pancyprians enter intermission the far happier of the 2 sides given the run of play? Well, a very vocal warning from the referee that was picked up by our microphones.
The ref said enough. He said the next time it'll be a yellow card.
Can't get much more blunt than that, can you?
Made himself very clear.
Argudo. crafty interplay this. And Chirilla, who's already on a yellow, left the boot tangling.
Sometimes when the possession can be this imbalanced, sometimes you get that sucker punch where the team does not have possession all of a sudden gets the go-ahead goal, albeit from a counter-attack, albeit from a free kick, a corner, dead ball situation, a mistake. Sometimes the goal goes completely against the run of play, and then the momentum shifts. Goals change games. It's going to be interesting to see if Pancyprian is able to create something in the dying seconds of this first half.
Well, it's Holland who stands over this, and he's known for set-piece magic. In fact, in the 100th minute of the Hellenic Derby against Greek Americans on Sunday, he's the one that whipped in the ball that led to the last-ditch equalizer. That's another really appetizing spot here. Curls in. Evades everyone in royal blue, though.
You can see that's an absolutely beautiful delivery. He's just screaming for somebody to attack it and guide into the back of the net, but nobody was able to get connection on the ball. But they couldn't ask for anything better from a delivery standpoint. Whipped in with pace across the goal. Keeper didn't leave his line.
Holland again. Perhaps time for one final foray forward. And no, there will not be. Well, after 45 minutes and change, it's still no score between FC Cincinnati 2 and New York Pancyprian Freedoms. Chris, a half clearly bossed by one side, but the visitors probably more happy with the scoreline.
Yeah, I think it's not a great half from either team. Very passive from Pancyprians, and obviously FC Cincinnati 2 looking to respond from the start that they've had to their season and maybe come out with a lot of energy, purpose, get some goals, get some confidence, and they've struggled to do that also in the first half. They've contained possession, but haven't been able to take the lead.
No moments of magic for either side. A couple hat chances both ways. But at halftime, we're left with a 0-0 scoreline here in Northern Kentucky. FC Cincinnati 2 with work to do if they hope to advance to the second round. We'll step aside here at intermission. It's 0-0 between Cincinnati and Pancyprians.
Wait a minute. But I've had most of your games. Some games I saw you turn, I was like, oh, I remember being too loud. I got that's when I can do stuff. You want to make memories or you want to make money? Like it's that's the other thing. Oh, so where is she at? I don't know why people are so. I did that. She said, that's the nice thing about going back to teaching. It's like my wife's like, and then it's like I got this stuff, I got the kids. Like I'm back to teaching, so that our lives don't have to be complicated. Okay. Something like that. Like at that point, you were right, and I was right. But yeah, what I mean, my point is, like I just had some time, and I was like, I'm never gonna beat them in the further stage. There's no shaking. What's up, man? Not even just that, but I mean, in terms of a roster. Yeah, they were like the most travel. Nobody showed us. Really thought like, oh, this team is awesome. We got back.
We welcome you back from Northern Kentucky University, where at halftime it's no score between FC Cincinnati 2 and New York Pancyprian Freedoms in the first round of the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. And speaking of the opening stage of this tournament, it's already been a very eventful round one. Time to take a look at yesterday's scores. A few that jump out: Inter Miami 2 surviving the scare against Miami United, and Des Moines pulling the cup set over SKC 2.
Yeah, Des Moines are known for pulling upsets in the Open Cup. They do it year after year. Quality on their roster, players of experience able to get the job done. How deep they'll go in the Open Cup will be a question, but a big result against Sporting Kansas City 2 yesterday.
It's time to take a look at the rest of the results. LAFC 2, a 7-1 throttling, but the big result that jumps out, El Farolito defeating Real Monarchs in extra time. The Cinderella run continues from 2024.
Yeah, I mean, LAFC 2, that's a statement win. That's what you expect from a team playing in the first division and players aspiring to make that level. They come out, they do what they're supposed to do, a dominant performance. That's kind of what you expect.
And then El Farolito springing the surprise. Let's take a look at the first half highlights. Not a lot of chances in this one, but Cincinnati with the better of them.
Yeah, and Cincinnati able to create chances against a back five here for Pancyprians. Just unable to have any quality in the attacking third to convert the chances. Some good defending, a little bit of lackluster finishing, but they've been banging at the door consistently. I think it's only a matter of time before they're able to burst the back of the net with one of the chances that they're having so far.
Carson Locker, arguably Cincinnati's best chance in the match, coming in the opening 15 minutes. There was a pretty glaring opportunity for Pancyprians, though.
Yeah, wide open here in the box. Good header on target, but Waters was well positioned to make it look like a fairly straightforward save.
Nick Salonka denying it, and then towards the end of the half, Chirilla, for a moment, he thought the seas had parted, snuffed at the source, though.
Ball just bouncing in the box, but Pancyprian's able to get bodies behind the ball and block it.
Looking at the first half stats, I think they tell the full story. One-way traffic, but how about this? Pancyprians, more shots on target despite far less possession.
Yeah, the possession is what it is. But as we spoke about, FC Cincinnati too have had a lot of shots, but just lacking quality, lacking a little bit of finesse in the final third to really take advantage of the opportunities that they've created. Pancyprians, a couple of counter-attack set pieces, able to get their shots on target. This game could potentially go either way, although the possession looks like it's telling a story. It's not been overly great from either team in the opening first half.
There has not been much cutting edge from the orange and blue, and I think that's what's held them back. You've mentioned some concerns about Pancyprians sitting off too much, but it hasn't come back to bite them just yet. It sets up a really interesting script and an interesting story for these final 45 minutes.
Yeah, and you know, the identity or the expectation that we come in, this is a high-scoring team in their regular competition. They speak about having maximum effort and intensity, and I wouldn't say they're two words that you would describe Pancyprian in that opening half. I say they're being very methodical in approach, being very tactical, but if they have an identity of maximum effort and intensity, I would not describe the first half as being exactly that.
Well, Pancyprians does make a change at intermission, and it comes on the front line. One of the more active players, James Thristino, exits. He's replaced by Samir Fatazada up front. So that is the lone change at intermission. As we await the referee's signal, back underway here from NKU Soccer Stadium. Pancyprians still in a quest for the cup set, but needing to up their intensity a bit more in order to secure it. Sam Goldfarb, Chris Nurse back on hand, taking you the rest of the way, these final 45 minutes and potentially beyond if the scoreline remains level after 90.
Yeah, what I think Pancyprians may have been guilty of in the first half is playing against the badge of the other team rather than playing against the players that you have on the field. As we spoke about, it's a young roster. If you have similar young, very good attacking players who aspire to get to this level, and old, experienced pros who have been and played at this level, you don't sit back as much as they haven't done in this game. You take it to them, you put them under pressure. You essentially play with the intensity that they say they're about. I think being 0-0 at halftime should have instilled a little bit of belief that, like, hey, right now we're being very passive and we're still in this game. If we try to play with our own identity, we play with intensity, we play with maximum effort, there's an opportunity for us to go on. Maybe they feel that confidence, or maybe they feel like if they approach the game in that manner, they open themselves up, and FC Cincinnati too will have the opportunity to then take advantage of them. But as we've seen, FC Cincinnati have created chances despite their passive approach to the game. They've just not had the quality to convert those chances. So maybe a change in approach of how they're playing the game maybe gives them more offense and gives them the opportunity to be the dominant team.
Be interesting to see how this unfolds for sure. Mboma Dem was one of the livelier presences going forward for FCC2 in that first half. 11 shots to just 1 on goal. That's, I think, the most telling number from that first half for FC Cincinnati 2. Possession is important, but it matters more what you do with it than how much you have.
And I think all teams need that striker who's going to get you 15 to 20 goals a season.
How about this? Potentially a chance brewing. Instead, right back into Josh Levine's gloves.
I think it's always good to be strong defensively, but you need that striker you can guarantee every season is going to be able to get you 15, 20 goals. And neither team, of course, Pancyprians have that relative to the level that they compete on a consistent basis. But I haven't seen that fox in the box or that player for FC Cincinnati 2 who's shown that they have that capability.
This is Akoba. He'd be the top guy you'd tip for that role. Hurtado. Cleared only as far as Adnan, the first-teamer. Comes loose to Joe Holland, who had some bright moments in that first half.
This is where Pancyprians had to be more aggressive to get players forward. You can see players just ambling, and maybe the fitness is starting to kick in now because you see that counter-attack, 3 players still not even back into their own half yet. They're just about getting back into camera frame now. So now there's an opportunity for FC Cincinnati too. You can see it to counter-attack quickly, get bodies forward, because Pancyprians are not recovering as quickly as maybe they were in the first half once they get forward.
Definitely feels like they need to be a bit more decisive and devastating when they win it back. And Mboma Dem to Dylan Hurtado. Adventurous cross in, it's saved, and an excellent stop from Levine.
Great save from Levine, and that's the service that's required into the box. Look at the time and space that he has there. You can see he's a big guy, he thrives on those opportunities. Just watch as the ball comes in. He's on the defender's shoulders, he peels off a couple steps behind, completely free, just unable to guide it into the corner. Fantastic chance for FC Cincinnati too to take the lead, and again, just unable to capitalize on the opportunities that they have. I don't think you could ask for a much better opportunity.
4-year striker and Teiga Ikoba, the new addition from Portland Timbers, who had his moments both with Timbers 2 and the first team.
But you can see why FC Cincinnati attack from the wide areas, because if they're able to provide him with that tier of service on a consistent basis, he's going to get goals. He's in the right place, the right time. You can see his aerial ability is unmatchable. But again, the conversion rate needs to be higher.
A bit more urgency about Cincinnati now. That cross from Caicedo, far too tight on Levine.
Both keepers have been positioned well for maybe the best 2 opportunities of the game. That one coming from Ikoba, and obviously the one that we had in the first half from Zielonka that Walters was well positioned also to save.
A pair of free headers. Both teams' forwards unable to capitalize on them. Cleverly done here. Pancyprians with some numbers. Argudo. Holland. Well, they would have been hoping for a bit more menacing than that.
I would say it's important for Pancyprians that if they have aspirations of advancing to the next round, that they get the first goal, because their approach to the game of being passive and sitting back if they go down a goal, they have to completely deviate from that game plan, because now they're chasing the game. They have to throw bodies forward. They have to be wide open. If this is the game plan, then they have to be the ones to get the first goal, and then they continue to defend how they are and have players behind the ball. But if they go down a goal, the game plan completely shifts. They're going to have to open themselves wide up.
And considering their averseness to taking too many chances going forward, that doesn't seem to be exactly written in the game script for them tonight. Pathazada in a shoving match with Hurtado, and the latter is penalized.
Hurtado just has his arms all over him here, pulling him back. Referee rightfully gives a free kick in favor of Pancyprians.
You saw before intermission, there was a pretty stern scolding from our lead official. Not necessarily about challenges like that, but he said, one more time and I'll give a yellow. I don't believe it was for that scenario we witnessed, but did lose his patience towards the end of that opening 45. Forster manages to keep it in play, only momentarily though. It is one back by Pathazada. And this is an inviting set-piece position. Argudo was sent tumbling.
FC Cincinnati just inviting the pressure there. They win the ball back on a couple of occasions, just struggle to clear the ball away from danger. And again, another good set-piece opportunity for Pancyprians here. We saw dangerous deliveries from Holland in the first half. Going to be interesting to see if we can continue to replicate that quality in the second half.
We saw Peach right before an intermission that nobody was able to get their head to. This is a bit of a tighter angle, though. Does the Magician have another in his locker?
Looks like FC Cincinnati definitely have more numbers in the box.
Holland hooks it near post, and it is right at Walters. Good night to be a goalkeeper tonight, huh?
Yeah, it's nice and cool. FC Cincinnati haven't been as critical in front of goal as they could have been, or it could be quite a different story with the number of chances that they've had, or number of shots I've had. Number of shots, should I say.
A lot of action between the 18s tonight. Significant amount parked on the edge of the Pancyprian 18. Dropping Mboma Dem a bit deeper now. Caicedo, another adventurous run forward. Koba giving chase. Smashed out of trouble, only as far as Brian Schaefer. If you're just joining us, early stages of the second half here from Northern Kentucky University. Sam Goldfarb, the former Guyana national team captain Chris Nurse, who, if I'm not mistaken, also a quarter finalist in this competition with Rochester, correct?
Yep.
So someone who has experience winning in the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. Game remains on a bit of a knife edge here. Caicedo.
Good hold-up play there from Akoba. Just able to use his body to protect the ball well, and then feeds out wide to Caicedo.
Falls to the edge of the area now. Mangione.
You can see how difficult Pancyprians are making it. So many bodies behind the ball.
Mangione again, laying it off.
That's what we spoke about, having that player centrally who can attract pressure, maybe be able to attract 2 or 3 players, which is going to free up somebody. So far, nobody's been able to take the game by the scruff of the neck in that means, and and draw Pancyprians out of their block and create space.
I've seen moments of Mbomedem and Mangione on the ball, but to your point, nobody who's really looked a threat to unlock this Pancyprians back line.
Centrally. Calcedo wide has been decent, and Hurtado's delivered a few decent crosses, but as you can see, the conversion rate from the wide areas is not as great as it can be centrally. You need a balance of both. The opportunities cannot solely come from the wide areas. There has to be somebody who poses a threat centrally also.
You wonder at what point Tyrone Marshall starts to think about changes. Experienced headman for this FC Cincinnati 2 squad. Mangione. Chirilla. Decent ball in. It was just beyond Dakoba. Headed along by Mbomedem. And too much shoving on the edge of the area for the officials' liking.
It's frustrating for FC Cincinnati too, but they just have to continue to play with purpose. Wave after wave of attack, continue trying to break down the Cyprian defense. And it may not be a pretty goal that they score, but they've got to find a way to score a goal and win the game at the end of it. It's going to be one of the ones that bobbles or bounces and somebody just latches on to it first and is able to convert, but they've got to keep banging on the door and not get too frustrated.
Well, remember, if the scoreline remains tied after 90 minutes, and we've got a long way to go, 2 15-minute extra time periods would await before a hypothetical penalty shootout. So there will be plenty of time for one of these teams to find a breakthrough. It's just a question of if and when it comes. Holland. So far, both teams playing to a stalemate. Hoofed ahead. Fathazada. And this is Herrera.
This is probably the first time we've seen Pancyprians in the attacking half trying to connect a few passes. But look at the transition to defense. You can see labored legs. This is where FC Cincinnati should be able to recognize that and counter-attack quickly and take advantage, because when they don't, Pancyprians do a great job of getting bodies behind the ball. But if they counter-attack quickly, they're able to take advantage in those transition moments.
What do you think is the reason for Cincinnati's hesitance to break here?
As we said, it's a very young team, and sometimes you don't have that level of knowledge or expertise when you're so young. It's something that comes over time, but maybe you have 2 or 3 experienced players on the team who can kind of govern things on field. I think you're looking for maybe some of the leaders in the squad to take responsibility of how the flow is going. It cannot always be relying on the coach on the outside. Sometimes you need players inside of the field to be able to take that responsibility also.
It's important to note, the oldest player on the pitch right now for the orange and blue is just 23 years of age. There's 2 23-year-olds. A lot of teenagers out there for FC Cincinnati too. And the man donning the captain's armband is Peter Mangione tonight. He is one of the oldest players on this FC Cincinnati team. Argudo wins this back. Are there numbers here for Pancyprians? Zelonka. It's Zelonka! Just narrowly over the bar. A very promising break, though.
Great effort from distance there from Zelonka. Does well here to get this ball at his feet. Stands at the defender, just shifts it half a yard and gets his shot off. You can see the keeper was slightly worried. They had the ball dipped a little bit earlier. May have found its way into the back of the net, but good opportunity there from Pancyprians from Zelonka.
Well, we rapidly approach the hour mark. Zelonka with Pancyprian's 2 best chances of the night. Hearing word Cincinnati is prepping 2 changes. Juan Machado and Ademar Chavez are the two men set to enter for FC Cincinnati 2 whenever the referee gives the signal to make the changes. Noah Adnan and, as of now, Kenji Mboma-Dem, one of the top creative talents on this orange and blue squad, are the two tipped to depart. It's an interesting alteration. There doesn't seem to be a player of those two that are entering that are go-to options going forward. Chavez is far more of a forward-thinking player. And also one more being readied. Ben Augie getting set to make his debut with the club. Well, Chris, it sounds like it's time for Tyrone Marshall to go to his reserves and see if they have any final third punch in their boots tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing having a slow start to the season against teams in a similar situation with strong rosters. It's another thing when that continues into the Open Cup against a team that you could strongly describe as inferior, playing in a low block and creating a number of chances and not converting. So I think maybe a little bit of frustration with what Tyrone Marshall has viewed on the pitch, and he wants to give some other players an opportunity to come in there and make the difference, which is really what's required. You need somebody who is able to be the difference maker on the pitch, either in the ability to create or the ability to convert, because defensively, they've not been challenged tremendously defensively, but in the attacking third is where you need the players who can make the difference.
Chip towards it, Koba now. He's immediately muscled off it. Bashed forward towards Fafazada, who is first to it. Doesn't do much with it. Mboma-Dem, potentially his last involvement.
This is the area where I'm speaking about. Mboma-Dem picks up the ball in a great position to go and hurt the opponents, and the ball ends up out for a corner kick, a throw-in, sorry to speak. He doesn't pull the trigger himself. He isn't able to find a teammate. It ends up being a throw-in to the other team. So I'm interested to see if these substitutions coming to the game can have a positive impact going forward.
And it appears it will be Mboma-Dem's last involvement. For starters, Ben Augie, a highly touted prospect for FC Cincinnati, is making his debut with FC Cincinnati 2, the Gonzaga University product. A center midfielder replacing Carson Locker. You see Ademar Chavez replacing Kenji Mboma-Dem. And then at the back, Noah Adnan, the first teamer vacating for Juan Machado in a like-for-like swap. So a triple swap for Tyrone Marshall and company as they look to rectify the state of affairs out here.
Some fresh legs, some fresh names, an opportunity to go out onto the field tonight and make a name for yourself. It's the US Open Cup, and obviously it vibrates all across the country when you're able to go out and have a big performance in these games. The legacy of the competition, playing against older players, potentially helping your organization to get the first win of the season, irrespective of whatever competition it may be. It's a fantastic opportunity for these players coming onto the field.
Well, Chavez, speaking of players with a chance to make a name for themselves, just 16 years of age. He's only made 2 professional appearances. They've come in the opening 2 Next Pro matches of FC Cincinnati 2's campaign. We mentioned earlier, both defeats. Have only conceded 3 goals in those matches, but have yet to score here in the 2025 season.
I mean, one of the benefits of young players, they normally play with no fear. They play with a freedom. They play with enthusiasm. And sometimes that sporadic nature that they have can bring something different to the field.
Holland. Floating it forward towards Zalanka. Couldn't quite get a touch to it, and the flag was raised anyways.
Some good build-up play, combination passing there from Pancyprian. It's actually a good diagonal ball also. Thought Zalanka may have been able to control that on his chest and volley it. Fortunately, the linesman either gave handball, I think, on this occasion.
I believe you're right.
But some promising build-up play passing from Pancyprian's, something that we haven't seen too often so far in these opening 60, or not opening, in these 65 minutes of the game so far.
As the match has worn on, you've seen those soft spots emerge for FC Cincinnati too on the break.
And you've also seen moments when Pancyprians have tried to play, and they've proven that they can. I just don't think they've been brave enough to do it too often. And maybe that's what they need to do, is be more brave in possession of the ball. Go all guns blazing. If you're going to stay in, you're going to go out there giving it everything you got. I'm not sure at the end of the night they can turn around and say they've given this everything they got.
You wonder at what point they'll start to throw caution to the wind for sure. So far, it's been a very pragmatic performance by Andreas Kronos's men, a former Pancyprians player himself.
But you see glimpses of it when they do try to play. They can. They've all just got to believe a little bit more in themselves, and then they don't need to be as passive as they have been so far for 60 minutes of this game.
Here's Bylan moving further forward, the St. John's product.
You're starting to see glimpses of them growing into the game, Pancyprians. They're actually now starting to play and possess and play through the lines.
You can start to see the confidence as they knock it around.
And the more they do it, the more confidence they build. Earlier on in the game, they'd win it. They were just playing long diagonal, turning possession back over to FC Cincinnati. But you've seen when they actually start to connect short passes, they're able to create problems for FC Cincinnati. And they look a lot better also.
Well, we move closer to the final 20 minutes of the initial 90. And as things stand, it might be a long night for everyone involved, partner.
And don't misunderstand what I'm saying. You don't have to make 100 passes to win a game. Even if you're going to play long and direct, it has to be with quality, not just pump forward and something for somebody to chase. You can play direct if it's the right pass. If a player's 1v1 and he has that ability, you can find him early. There's nothing wrong with that, but there needs to be quality in it. Can it just be a hopeful kick forward and then expecting magic?
Chavez lost it out of play with his first touch. Fafazada was trod upon. Bylan. Ikoba muscling his defender off it. This is Tega Ikoba. Chavez.
Smart pass there from Chavez. Ikoba just wasn't reading it on the same page.
Augie. And he was fouled.
I think it's a little lenient from the referee there. I think Augie was dribbling into trouble. Referee's throwing him a lifeline by awarding a free kick.
And without hesitation, Peter Mangione strides over to it. Donning the captain's armband, the Penn State graduate. Toward the back post, it's still loose, and tamely, rolls to Levine.
Of course, naturally, Ikoba is the target from those whipped-in deliveries. He's showing his prowess in the air with an earlier chance in this game.
Fafazada. Augie. 20 to play here in northern Kentucky. Just 9 miles outside downtown Cincinnati tonight. The temperature drops precipitously. We are below 40 degrees Fahrenheit on a windy night as well, which makes it feel that much cooler at NKU Soccer Stadium. Caicedo. This is Machado's first proper involvement in the build tonight.
And that intensity that I spoke about, Pancyprian, is lacking. If Cincinnati 2 are able to move the ball quicker with purpose, because they're not necessarily shifting quickly, they're shifting because the ball's moving so slowly, so it's not requiring them to shift with tons of energy. If they're able to move the ball quickly, the holes will start to appear in the defensive shape of Pancyprians. But if they move the ball slowly, there's no real need for Pancyprians to be intense, because the ball's not moving that's requiring them to do that.
You saw it especially early on. Cincinnati unlocked the back line once or twice and just unable to get the final touch on it. But since the restart, there's been very little of that.
Yeah, they're being frustrated because there's no purpose in the passing. It's not shifting from one side to the other to get Hurtado or Caicedo 1v1 to take on attackers. It's not finding the feet of a Koba. It's not finding it Opeyemi in pockets where he can make things happen. It's just a lot of passing for the sake of right now, and it has to have a little bit more purpose.
Augie looking through. That was a very adventurous run from Chavez, but the flag was raised anyways.
And even here, this pass needs to be so precise. He's got time and space. You've got to pull the trigger in this situation. Look, he's done well to create the space. Just pull the trigger now. He's trying to feed it in, which isn't a bad idea, but the shot's going to be more dangerous. He's following the rebound, maybe gets the tap in. When it's a low block, it's very difficult because there's not much space behind. So they've got to get the opportunities, get open and take those shots from distance and following the rebounds.
Zelonka, he's not been shy about unleashing tonight. Argudo. It was a switch for the cameras, that.
And of course, sometimes it's harsh because maybe you're viewing the game or talking about the game like we're talking about seasoned professionals, and this FC Cincinnati 2 team is not seasoned professionals. It's young players who are learning their trade. You know, they're out there learning their trade, continue to advance through the game. So sometimes it's good to bear that in mind in context when discussing these players and thinking where they are in their individual journeys.
Currently on the pitch right now, 5 teenagers for FC Cincinnati 2. The rest are in their early 20s. It's an adventurous cross, falls for Fatazada. The follow-up effort just sails high.
Great opportunity there for Pancyprians to sucker punch FC Cincinnati 2. Poor defensive header there, just heads it directly back into the danger zone. He even needs to head that away for a corner kick or head it back where it came from. Skims the ball into the danger and a huge let off there.
It was Herrera who ran onto it. The initial touch from Samir Fatazada. A pair of substitutes linking up. What a plot twist that would have been.
Yeah, and it's easy to say unlucky, but in reality, it's probably just lacking a little bit of quality and composure. If he has a better first touch there, that ball should be nestling in the back of the net. Coming onto the ball with momentum. Bobbled up perfectly for him to strike it.
Word Cincinnati is readying one more change. Hurtado is the man set to depart. And he will do so momentarily. He's replaced by Cosa Manyama, excuse me. A new signing for FC Cincinnati 2. Cosa Manyama, the 19-year-old, makes his first ever U.S. Open Cup appearance. Manyama on loan from the South African top flight, a native of South Africa. Dinked over the top. It was decent positioning there, but not much more from Opeyemi.
It's a great run here from Obiemi. Just see the diagonal run from outside to in. Great control on his chest. Just doesn't connect to the ball as sweet as he would have liked, but good movement, good ball control. Just lacking that final touch.
Sri Lanka giving chase. Well, back and forth we go.
Would have been some goal had Obiemi managed to find the target with that one on his left foot.
Might take a moment of brilliance tonight. Or a devastating error. So we are now in the final quarter of an hour. When you're in a position such as this in a knockout tournament where you know the slightest of miscues can cost you everything, how do you approach it as a player?
I mean, for Pancyprian, it's very clear they're not in the game tonight to play any expansive or attractive style of play. They're in the game tonight to simply survive as long as they can and try to advance to the next round. For FC Cincinnati too, I think it's maybe a little bit of a different objective, to give the young players exposure, to continue to try to expose their game plan and their style of play on the opponents. And of course, winning is a byproduct of that also.
Well, remember, if it finishes tied for you fans at home, 30 minutes of extra time, 2 15-minute periods beckon. Of course, it remains level after that, a penalty shootout to determine who progresses to the second round of this competition. Still plenty of time before we reach that point, though. Aggressive cross in towards Ikoba. Now escorted along towards Obiemi. Nothing coming from that. You know, the nice thing about this is there's no replay when you have a draw. I know in England, there's definitely that in the FA Cup.
FA Cup, it's good because the lower tier clubs get the opportunity to bring the bigger clubs to their home fans. They get an opportunity to generate revenue through the gates and make some money from the competition. And obviously that goes a long way when you're dealing with semi-professional and amateur teams. So
I believe Tottenham Hotspur traveled to an 8th tier club this year.
If you're able to get a tie and bring it home to your fans and give them the opportunity to have a bigger tier team come and play in your home stadium, and you get the advantage of playing in your home stadium, it's part of the magic of cup competitions.
We've already seen it in the States a bit with Asheville City hosting Greenville a couple nights ago. Fell on penalties.
And of course, that's even more why the onus is on FC Cincinnati tonight. They're in their home facility. They have the upper hand from that perspective. And
it's important to note, it is their actual home facility. They play here normally. This was awkwardly dealt with by Schaefer with Sri Lanka rushing on. But they play at NKU Soccer Stadium on a weekly basis in MLS Next Pro action. The first team, of course, at TQL in Cincinnati. Augie cutting it back across. Nearly fell for Obiemi. Cleaned up by Jordan Byland.
Obiemi just had to be on his front foot a little bit more there. Maybe it was an errant pass and it wasn't intended for him, but it fell perfectly into his stride. Had he been on full speed, a great opportunity to strike on target there. But
Sri Lanka again. It's definitely been, outside of maybe Holland, the most dangerous player tonight for Pancyprians.
Yeah, you're starting to see the cramp kicking in a little bit for some of the Pancyprian players.
Ikoba. Caicedo. Officially in the final 10 minutes of the 90. Game remains scoreless. The question is there that final bit of invention from either side to prevent us from going to extra time tonight? The man cramping now for Pancyprians.
As we spoke about, hamstrings, calves, a couple players now you see reaching.
You've got Forster on one end, and you've mentioned Zelonka struggling now for the last minute or two. And this is where fitness becomes a question, right? Because Pancyprian's a squad that does not train nearly as regularly or play as regularly as teams like Cincinnati. And Zelonka will make way, which is a devastating loss for Pancyprians, given he's probably been their most lively piece going forward tonight. He's replaced by Junior Rosero, but don't be fooled. Rosero is a very dangerous presence going forward himself. Was the joint top scorer in that National Amateur Cup. He also scored 5 goals last summer in that competition.
And as we mentioned, given the approach to the game from Pancyprians, the first goal is pivotal for them to have that moment.
Important to note about Rosero as well. He's actually returning from a bit of a minor knock. Andreas Kronis saying that he intends to play him tonight, but it's going to be as a substitute. And in the final 10 minutes, they bring on quite the difference maker off the pine. Smashed away. It's towards Rosero. Overzealous on the challenge against Chirilla. Believe a hand in the pocket. There's a yellow shown.
Just making his presence known nice and early. Little nudge in the back.
Well, Rosero booked. We mentioned his success in the National Amateur Cup. Braces in the semifinals and the final. That's the national semifinals and final, not the regional.
Both teams have made a number of changes. FC Cincinnati have made 4 changes so far. Pancyprians have made 3 changes. We can only envision more should this go into extra time.
Mañana ushering it wide. Bailon wins it back and sent tumbling. Yellow will be shown. It's Mañana booked.
Good play here from Bailon. Just anticipates, wins possession of the park here. Middle of the park, continues to drive forward. And he's got the beating of the midfielder. Just gets body checked. Slows down play and allows FC Cincinnati 2 to get all their players back behind the ball. And what could have turned out to be a dangerous counter-attack for Pancyprians.
Why else would you time waste? Not good enough?
Well, the substitute, Cosa Mañana booked, as is the substitute Rosero moments ago. Things beginning to tighten up here late. Rosero. A loose pass that's read by Augie. Mangione from distance, just whistling it wide.
Good opportunity here from Mangione, but I would have been surprised if Levine was beaten from this distance given the contact on the strike. Just didn't connect with it as clean as he would have liked, and you just saw it trickle past the upright and out for a goal kick.
It was unclear whether Levine had it fully covered. It wasn't coming with the most pace. Chavez.
Some nice touches from Chavez.
Towards Mangione. Just overran it. Holland floating it forward towards Rosero. Flag stays down, and that was more hit and hope than anything else.
Audaciously ambitious effort there from Rosero. But you just thought Mangione could have pulled the trigger when that ball goes over the top there. Bounces up perfectly.
Chavez is beginning to set the world alight a bit tonight.
He's been good to watch since he's come in, Chavez. He's a little bit of excitement.
Definitely provides that spark, which they've been lacking throughout the bulk of these 90 minutes.
And he's shown he has the eye to play those balls forward. That ball he plays over the top of the defense there for Mangione is excellent service. You're just asking for somebody to do something with the end of it. I think Mangione may regret not pulling the trigger and trying his luck.
In a match like this, where you can be fooled at times, where maybe things won't materialize because so many chances previously have petered out. How do you stay switched on in key moments like this?
Top strikers forget very quickly. So the chances that they miss, they immediately forget, and they're always thinking about the next one. So I think that's the key for top players, is that they move on from mistakes very quickly and try to make better decisions the next time. They learn very quickly from errors throughout the course of the game.
Chavez is filled with confidence at the moment in his US Open Cup debut. Mañana forward. Cross comes in, it's a good one. Still loose. And just ushered away in the nick of time.
Just everybody wants the perfect strike. Nobody just wants to take a chance and pull the trigger. The ball's there in and around the 18-yard box, just screaming for somebody to strike it on goal in. Unfortunately, Levine wasn't even forced into a save in this situation from what looked like it could have been a certain goal.
Well, this is read excellently. And Holland latching onto it again.
Both teams just lacking that killer instinct and that ruthlessness in and around the box.
Holland. We rapidly approach the 90-minute threshold. Neither side with any signs of a breakthrough just yet. Levine way out of his goal. Loose pass. And that is just cleaned up.
Waste. It's an absolute waste of possession. Great, dangerous area. He's on the half turn. He's got time. He's got space. He's not under any pressure. Yes, it looks great, Mangione, but that's not a great pass because it's now out for a corner kick. You had far more time to pick out a teammate and make something happen.
Caicedo's made so many of those runs forward too, and gotten into so many terrific spots.
And that's the area that we've spoken about that maybe was lacking somebody who can pick up the ball in that area of the field and deliver forward balls with quality. We've seen Chavez on the right-hand side come in and be able to play some quality balls forward, show some nice touches, some individual moments of flair and brilliance. But in the center of those park, when you have time and space in those areas, that's where you keep possession, to find the dangerous players in those areas so they can use their magic and make things happen.
Chavez. A loose pass back. Wasteful at that. Well, all eyes will be on the fourth official in a matter of moments. And if a breakthrough is to come now, it could prove quite decisive. Argudo. Ikoba laying it off. Augie. Back to Tega Ikoba in space. Flag was raised before he could tuck it in.
There's good build up here. Great hold up play. And a good ball over the top here from Augie. I'm not overly convinced he's offside here. Is that a great finish in the end?
I tell you what, I'm not convinced either. In the 90th minute, an Ikoba strike wiped off the board. And now 3 minutes of added time separate us from an additional 30.
The linesman obviously had a better view than us and was pretty confident in his decision.
Augie again has support. Caicedo.
Augie has been active since he's come into the game. Again, maybe a couple of occasions where I feel like he's overplayed, but He's been good at trying to play those ball forwards, making runs forward in behind the defensive line, trying to make things happen in a positive way going forward for FC Cincinnati too.
Well, at the moment, all 11 tucked behind the ball for Pancyprians.
As they have been for large portions of this game.
Schaefer floats it towards Ikoba. Augie. It's Augie.
Great footwork there from Augie to get the ball under control at the air, find a little bit of space with his first touch. And on this occasion, he did pull the trigger, but good defending for the Pancyprian team. Oh, the referee lived up to his promise. He did say any more, he's going to give a yellow card.
Well, he's pointing at the sideline right now. I believe it's the Pancyprian sideline. Yes, it is. It's the bench. So warning to the bench now in the late stages of this.
Andreas Kronis may have found himself into the book.
He's a passionate guy when we spoke to him. A fiery, very confident about his team's potential. That's a handball. Augie approaching the final minute of added time. Mangione. Opiemi. Chavez. It's Ademar Chavez. He had Levine scrambling, but ultimately the goalkeeper able to pounce.
Chavez has done well there. It's a good idea, probably just overhits the pass a little bit, but since he's come into the game, he's been the player who's been looking to play balls in behind that defensive line. Does well here, cutting inside, creates a little bit of space for himself. Just probably need a little bit more finesse on that final pass, but the idea was good.
Well, Pancyprian's proving obdurate at the back.
You know, we spoke about seeing that player that had a little bit something different that maybe has the potential to go forward in the future. And from what I've seen from Chavez in the short time that he's been on the field, he's shown something a little bit different.
Is there time for one last sojourn forward for Pancyprians, or are they content to just wait this out?
Just 16 years old, Chavez. 2009 he was born.
Holland has a knack for the late game spectacular. Bylon hooked over the top. Shot comes in! Just whistles wide.
My mouth was wide open there. I thought the Pancyprian team had stole a winner in the last kick of the regulation time. Great effort, great connection on the volley, just off target.
And that is where we leave things after 90 minutes. 30 more beckon here from NKU Soccer Stadium. FC Cincinnati 2 unable to find a breakthrough. Pancyprians game in that second half.
Both teams looking a little fatigued and a little lackluster. They need to find it deep inside to find energy, purpose going into these extra 30 minutes of extra time.
It's now time to take a look at our full-time highlights. It was a cagey affair, opportunities few and far between, but in the second half began to open up a little bit.
Yeah, I think in the second half there are a few more opportunities. This was an early chance that came in the first half. Runners into the box, not a clean connection, and the ball and cleared away from danger.
And you saw Cincinnati 2 continue to mount the pressure. Locker getting involved. This was probably their best chance of the opening 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, a little bit of good defending there, a little bit of fortune. Saw that one ricochet over the crossbar.
And opportunities from set pieces. Chirilla denied at the source.
Ball bobbling around inside the box like a ping pong ball. Again, the Pancyprian team doing a good job of clearing away the danger.
You move to the second half. It's more of the same. Inviting crosses. Ikoba, this is their best chance. A free header that's denied.
That's Ikoba's bread and butter. A great delivery from the wide area. Finds him all alone. His header, fortunately, finds Levine's hands.
Fafazada getting involved. This follow-up effort from Herrera nearly tested Walters, but he took it over.
Poor defensive header here from FC Cincinnati. Glances it into the box and gives the Pancyprian team an opportunity to take the lead, but shanked wide and high over the crossbar.
Mangione getting involved in the later stages, but the story is Cincinnati unable to find the target.
Yeah, I think the quality in the box for both teams has suffered tonight. There's been chances, there's been good link-up play. This was a great little ball over the top here from Augie. Not sure it was offside. Ikoba does a good job to finish this one. You can see he takes his frustration on the ball off the field.
That came in the 90th minute, but it ends 0-0, so that brings us to extra time. Here is your look at the extra time rules. It's classic, 2 15-minute periods, no golden goal. That's the important point. So if one team concedes an opportunity to respond, and of course, if we are level after 120 minutes, the dreaded or coveted spot kicks, depending on which side of the aisle you are on tonight. That is your look at the rules for extra time.
Yeah, I think in the final 15 minutes of the second half, I think we saw fatigue and tired legs start to kick in for both teams, mental fatigue, and there became opportunities for both teams to get the go-ahead goal. I think it's going to continue in extra time now. The fatigue is going to kick in. It's going to be interesting which team is able to handle it better defensively, staying tight and compact. You're starting to see a lot of cracks start to appear in the Pancyprians. And then we obviously saw a great opportunity on the counter-attack against FC Cincinnati. So it's going to be interesting to see which direction this game goes.
It was the first half where it was largely one-way traffic. In the second, we began to see a lot more parity, and it sets the stage for what should be a really enthralling final 30 minutes. We're going to step aside briefly when we return extra time from NKU Soccer Stadium. We welcome you back here from NKU Soccer Stadium, where extra time awaits. A long evening from Highland Heights, Kentucky, FC Cincinnati 2 and New York Pancyprian Freedoms on tap for 30 more minutes to determine who advances to the second round of the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. Alongside former Guyana national team midfielder Chris Nurse, I'm Sam Goldfarb. Chris, as a player, I'm sure you've experienced extra time. What is the energy like in a team huddle before an additional 30 minutes?
Yeah, you're really looking at the depth in your squad to make the difference. Tired legs will kick in, fatigue will kick in, the game will open up. There'll be chances for both teams in these final phases. It's just going to be a case of who has the quality and who can be more clinical inside the box. We saw the last 15 minutes, good chances for both teams, but neither able to capitalize.
Well, back underway, the first 15-minute extra time period has commenced. It's 2 15-minute periods. If we're still tied after that, we go to penalties, and as a reminder for the rules we showed you moments ago, no golden goal. So if a team scores, they don't win the match. They still have to see out the result. It is your classic extra time arrangement tonight.
For FC Cincinnati too, with the possession that you had, we've seen Chavez on this right-hand side, the teenager, 16 years old. He's been dangerous since he's come into the game. Keep him wide, keep feeding him and finding with the ball and see if he's the one that's able to create and make something happen in the attack.
Chavez, plenty of dynamism on the flank. The source of many of their best chances. Look long to Fafazada here. Has shown some things off the bench for Pancyprians tonight. And he wins New York a corner. A Pancyprian side with a proud history. We mentioned it off the top. 3-time US Open Cup winners. They've even competed in the CONCACAF Champions Cup and reached a semifinals in 1984.
That was the year I was born. It's a long time ago. I'm not a young buck anymore.
It was pre-MLS, that is for certain.
10 years pre-MLS.
In-swinger comes in here. Decent ball. Fafazada's follow-up effort lacked any ferocity. It's still loose. This is not confidently dealt with in any regard, and finally hoofed clear.
It's one of those moments when the ball's just pinging around inside the box and anything can happen. It can ricochet off somebody's knee and find the back of the net. It could be an own goal.
Seen a number of half chances as this game has tightened up. It's at least sent defenses scrambling. Argudo.
As I've said a number of times, when the Pancyprians have put the ball down and passed it and actually played, they've looked decent.
Holland has been at the center of much of that, and that cross is not one that will live in his personal Hall of Fame.
A lot of walking now from players on both teams, and it only takes one player not to have the right defensive position and they completely ruin the block for the rest of the group. So for FC Cincinnati too, they're trying to find the weakness or the weak link within the group that no longer has the energy to keep their defensive shape and exploit those pockets.
You've mentioned Pancyprians at time, late to shuffle laterally, sometimes late to cover up spaces, especially in transition moments.
Yeah, but the ball has to move quick enough to exploit those spaces. If it keeps moving slowly, 3, 4, 5 touches before players release the ball or switch the point of attack, then those spaces disappear very quickly.
Augie gives chase to this. He's being hounded by a number of Pancyprian players. Caicedo's cross, a good one towards Acoba. Mangione recycles. One back by Argudo. Adventurous ball forward. Rosero latching onto it. Flag stays down. Cut back across. Holland. A last-ditched intervention from Mañada to win it back.
It was good defending there from Mañada in the end. FC Cincinnati were wide open. Last-ditch interception there. Snuffed out what could have been a game-winning opportunity.
It was the most glaring break we've seen for Pancyprians all night. Augie the other direction. End-to-end stuff now. Caicedo's cross. And a corner on the way for FC Cincinnati too.
Foster taking no chances here, heading out for a corner kick, but also strung here a little cramp after heading that ball out of play. Stretching out those calves. If you're FC Cincinnati and you're looking at Foster right now, you're attacking his side, attacking his side, attacking his side for the next 15 minutes and put him under pressure.
Might be the end of his evening, though. Forster has played all 95 minutes tonight, and it appears he may not go much beyond that. He's up on his own power temporarily. Pancyprians down to 10 unless they make a change. and they will make that change. So it's Alexi Morel who replaces Matt Forster. Morel, 23 years of age, a product of Franklin Pierce University. Joined the club this winter after the conclusion of his college career. In swinging ball near post. Cleaned up confidently. One of the few errant passes we've seen from Chavez tonight. Now we're a long way from it, Chris, but what is important to note, as you see another Pancyprian's player cramp up, is if this goes to penalties, FC Cincinnati 2 far more experienced with spot kicks, because in MLS Next Pro, if you're tied after 90 minutes, you go to penalties.
Yeah, the problem is with so many substitutions, your best penalty takers may not be on the field anymore. So you're relying on the players that may not start games or may not finish games to be the ones to convert those PKs for you.
This is knocked over the top towards Chavez. Half-hearted appeals for handball here. Falls for Augie, lays it off. Mangione nearly through. And again, just hesitant to uncork.
You have to give Mangione credit for staying on his feet, but I think the contact was significant enough that if he goes down there, I think the referee's forced to give a penalty kick. But Augie again, proed in, providing those key passes in the midfield, trying to unlock this Cyprian defense and Pancyprian defense, and a great opportunity there.
A number of chances that go begging here for Cincinnati.
Just look at the position here that Augie, don't get to see it, but the position that Augie picks up, just finds himself in between the lines where he can receive and turn and play forward.
You saw Ikoba latching onto that, but couldn't steer it towards Levine's goal. So 8 minutes remaining in this first extra time period. From experience, you don't tend to have much time tacked on in extra time stanzas. Although perhaps a little bit with the cramping going on Pancyprian's side. This is a Pancyprian squad that, in the back of their minds, has been preparing for this matchup for weeks. Even with their league schedule going on, this is the big game that has been at the back of their heads the whole time. Competing in their first Open Cup since 2016. Looking to live up to the history of squads past that have made deep runs or won the tournament. Mañana. Back to Chavez, so dangerous on this right side. An inventive ball in, and Levine able to collect.
Again, dangerous play from Chavez, just creates a space himself, drives inside, whips a dangerous ball to the back post, and I think he caught some of his teammates by surprise with the ball he delivered.
It's cheeky from Holland and gets it back. Heavy touch.
And this is where they're vulnerable in the counter-attack. You can see they just don't have the legs to recover anymore.
Bailon does just enough. There's been a war of attrition tonight. Mangione. Terrific ball. Caicedo off the post. Another cross floated in.
Caicedo, you wonder if it was the right decision to go for goal here. He has Ikoba in the middle all alone. He goes for the strike from a tight angle. Levine does well to push it on the post. Keep his team in the game.
Caicedo offside. This, the biggest chance of the match for Cincinnati.
It's a great first touch here. He completely eliminates Herrera. Again, I'm not sure it's the right decision to go for goal. If he scores, you don't have anything to say, but Cobra is completely alone in the center of the goal. If he squares it, I think it's the go-ahead goal, maybe the winning goal. He goes for goal himself, and Levine makes a match-winning save.
Very tight angle at that. Over the top towards Fafazada.
Not a bad idea there from Rosero. Just holds up the ball, tries to flick it in behind to make something happen.
More changes coming. And this time on Cincinnati's side, it's William Keisel, who enters the action for Yorkaev Caicedo, who put forth a very industrious 100 minutes. And this is a like-for-like swap on the left flank. Well, Keisel, 17 years of age, an FC Cincinnati Academy product, who has featured in both Next Pro matches to date. Pancyprian's breaking forward. Argudo into a thicket of white shirts, still loose. Holland couldn't steer that on frame.
Holland does well here to pick up the rebound, but defensive block here. And then Haaland just comes charging through like a steam train, just unable to get his strike on target, but does ever so well to get in front and win that second ball.
Well, if Argudo had put that on frame, what a moment it would have been for the former Columbus man to eliminate a Cincinnati squad from the Open Cup. I'm not sure it's the Cincinnati squad he'd want to eliminate, but it's one of them. Chavez. Ademar Chavez chipping it in. A brilliant touch from Rosero. And the seas parting now. Mañana pouncing, tail end of this first half of extra time. Keisel's first touch of the night. Mañana the switch. Augie. Terrifically by Morel. Holland.
Game starting to open up for both teams now. You can see both sets of players struggling in transition moments to cover the ground.
Closing stages of this first half. Rapidly approaching 105. Both teams with their biggest chances of the match so far. Jordan Bailon. None of these clearances on either side are decisive.
Game's a little bit scrappy right now, and neither team really.
Morel lost out. Chavez breaking forward. Managing to keep the ball at his feet, magnetized to his boots.
Great feet, Chavez. So comfortable with the ball at his feet. You can see just glides past people.
Now crossing it in towards Ikoba, and he nearly picked him out.
Just a little bit too close to the goalkeeper on it, this delivery, but you can see Chavez has some ability in possession of the ball. He was maybe not going to take you on the line. You can kind of predict every time that he's going to cut inside. That's probably the area of the game that he needs to develop, where he becomes less predictable, where he can take you down the line, but he can also cut inside.
16 years of age and arguably the best player on the pitch tonight.
He's definitely had a positive impact since his introduction to the game.
Final minute of this initial half of extra time. We may be coming right down to the final minute tonight, or beyond, if penalties await in our future. Augie. One minute of added time here in extra time. Mañana. Schaefer.
Struggling to find a forward pass, Schaefer.
Keisel. And that cross curved out of play. Kiesel starting to make an impact.
When they play the lateral passes, the ball has to move quicker in order to create the space to play those forward passes. They 1, 2, 3 touches, and then it goes sideways, and the space to play forward is already gone.
Well, we appear destined for a level scoreline after 105 minutes. And that we do. After 105 minutes, it's still no score between FC Cincinnati 2 and New York Pancyprian Freedoms, but a far more open period than we've seen in previous sectors of this match.
Yeah, the field is becoming stretched for both teams, and again, we're just looking for that moment of quality inside the 18-yard box to set these two teams apart. You can see tired legs kicking in for both teams. The ability to stay tight and compact is starting to be diminished. There's end-to-end opportunities, there's counter-attacks. Oggy's doing a good job of finding space in the center of the park. Chavez has been dangerous on his right-hand side.
Let's take a look at the highlights from those first 15 minutes of extra time, and there's far more chances in a tighter span than we've seen throughout any point of this match.
Great opportunity here, and this is where I questioned, did he make the choice, the right choice here, Calcedo, to take the shot himself, or should he have squared it for a Cobra centrally in the box?
The other way, Argudo, and then the follow-up effort from Holland, at least causing some trouble.
Holland so quick to get onto this second ball, but just unable to get his strike on contact. Does ever so well to get possession of the ball, but fails to threaten the goalkeeper.
And then you saw Chavez begin to show some more bright flashes. Well, 15 more minutes on the clock. The start of the second and final half of extra time. Still no score between FC Cincinnati 2 and New York Pancyprian Freedoms. The question is, does either side have a late winner and a flair for the late dramatic, or will we be going to penalties tonight to determine who advances to the second round of the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup? The debutantes, FC Cincinnati 2, looking to avoid bowing out early like so many of their peers in MLS Next Pro. Meanwhile, Pancyprians looking to recapture some of the magic of the 20th century here tonight.
Yeah, of course, you're representing MLS, whether it's MLS Next Pro or MLS. Your aspirations are to climb to the next level and make the first team. It's humbling and maybe a little humiliating if you end up getting locked out or losing to teams from a lower division. So there's a sense of pride that these players must be aware of when they're representing FC Cincinnati in this tournament. And let's see if they're able to get the job done in the last 15 minutes of additional regulation time.
We just await the referee's signal. There's one more change taking place. It will be for Pancyprians. It will be Dean Haynu who exits. And he is replaced in the heart of defense. Back underway here from NKU Soccer Stadium. It is Brandon Christel who also replaces Monsuru Opiemi. So a change for Cincinnati as well.
I think as you climb up the levels of play, the quality really does make a difference. When you're looking at top-tier teams, strikers generally...
Mangione from afar, and he overcooked it.
Strikers generally score within the ratio of like a 1 to 3. Give them 3 chances, they're generally going to score 1 of the 3. And as you go down the tiers, that ratio increases, maybe 1 to 8, and then as you go to, maybe it becomes 1 to 10 or 1 to 12. So far in this game, Cincinnati had 22 shots, just 5 on target. Pancyprians, 11 shots, just 2 on target.
Well, another man down for Cincinnati, and this is a difficult loss if Mangione has to vacate. Peter Mangione, one of the more aggressive presences going forward for the Orange and Blue tonight. Well, so Mangione slow to get it. By the way, the Pancyprians change in the heart of defense. Jens Hoff replaces Devin Hainu, off a product of the University of Michigan who battled injuries throughout his tenure, a Norwegian center back. So it's a like-for-like swap in the heart of defense. Mangione is laboring off under his own power. And with Caicedo subbed off and Boma Dem also off, Mangione was one of the key chance creators in that first half of extra time. And for the moment, he's at least sidelined. Cincinnati temporarily down to 10. And back underway. All to play for still here in Highland Heights, Kentucky. Argudo just lost out. Ben Augie has been a terrific threat since entering the fray. Sam Goldfarb, Chris Nurse taking you every step of the way tonight from NKU Soccer Stadium, just 9 miles outside downtown Cincinnati, where the first team plays. We are at the home of Next Pro outfit FC Cincinnati 2. And Cincinnati 2 in a tough fight with Pancyprians. Chavez still with it.
I love that from Chavez, that when the ball was coming down, he was always looking to go forward with his first touch. He wasn't interested in looking sideways or backwards. He was looking forward and trying to get half a yard of space to get his shot off.
By the way,
even though he wasn't able to do it, you could see the intent in what he was trying to do.
My apologies, Chris. Mangione back on the pitch. Kiesel. Good ball in the half space. It's Ben Augie. Closed down immediately. Chris, how many times when you played in the US Open Cup did you go to penalties?
It's quite frequent it happens, because as you're seeing in a game like this, Pancyprian are making it really difficult for FC Cincinnati 2 to break them down by having their low block and keeping players behind the ball. So it makes it really difficult. It can become frustrating. It can be very difficult to break down unless you work specifically in training and you know and you scout and you're like, okay, this is how we're going to break down the low block, which sometimes you don't always have the opportunity to do in the Open Cup because you're playing against teams that maybe are not able to see their video so easily. So sometimes you're just trying to figure things out on the fly throughout the course of the game.
It's definitely been the story of tonight. Pancyprian's tough to break down despite being out of possession for large spells, especially in the first half. There's arguments that took a touch out of play, and the referee says it did. So a corner coming for Pancyprians in the 110th minute.
And we've seen some of that frustration displaying itself throughout the course of the game from FC Cincinnati too. You look at Ikoba after his goal got disallowed and he goes and kicks the ball on the side of the field. It's signs of frustration. You can see that the plan that Pancyprians have had has been fairly effective.
Well, it's Holland who stands over it. Joe Holland, the go-to on-ball presence tonight for Pancyprians. A dynamic chance creator who, as we mentioned, the 7th overall pick in the 2017 MLS Super Draft by Houston Dynamo. Spent 3 years in the American professional ranks. This will come with outswing. Heart of the area. Stood up immediately. And is there space on the break now for Cincinnati? Ikoba giving chase. And he does win the foot race. Bailon doing just enough to dispossess him.
Good work there from Bailon. Stays tight to him despite Ikoba getting to the ball first. Good 1v1 defending.
Bailon playing all 111 minutes to date in this match. Chavez. Every time he's touched it, I've gotten the sense that he's about to create something special. Here he is again. Overcooked a bit for Augie. Chavez again. Linking with Kiesel, the 17-year-old. A pair of teenagers linking up. Cross comes. Mangione couldn't latch onto it.
Again, it's Chavez creating. And you can see the respect that his teammates have for him. They continuously try to find him with the ball. You know when a player is important and their teammates believe in them, when they keep feeding them the ball, they keep finding them the ball. So Chavez is showing at a young age that the level of respect that his teammates have for him.
Chavez to date had only played 40 minutes in 2 matches in MLS Next Pro. Seems primed for far more playing time as the year evolves, especially based on this performance.
Yeah, and you can, as he gets more games, as he gets more confidence, he's naturally going to continue to grow and become better. Of course, he's under the tutelage or the mentorship of a coach who's been there and done it.
And Tyrone Marshall, somebody who played 14 years in the MLS.
Was captain of his national team.
Captain of Jamaica.
A tremendous amount of experience and knowledge that he can pass on to the youngsters. Sometimes young players only want to play in one direction, and you can see he already has that creative natural ability. If he can nurture his talent to be able to play in both directions, he has the potential of becoming something special.
Last year, Tyrone Marshall engineered one of the biggest turnarounds in MLS Next Pro. Cincinnati breaking forward again. And it's cleaned up by Jens Hoff.
You know, in the beginning of the game, I said we were looking for that player who has the flair, who has the ability, who has something different. And, you know, it's a small snapshot, but for me, Chavez has stood out as a player who has that potential in years to come, and I think he's somebody we want to keep a close eye on.
Well, we approach the final 5 minutes of extra time. Cincinnati driving forward. It was an audacious attempt for Mikoba that wound up right in Levine's gloves. Cincinnati has come out on the front foot in this final period of extra time, hunting that winner to avoid the sheer parity that comes with penalty shootouts. Rosero. Over to Joe Holland. Plenty of space. Holland from afar, and he was not far off.
Holland, who you could arguably say has been Pancyprian's most threatening attacking player over the course of the 114 minutes that we played so far. He's had a few great opportunities, but just failed to threaten the goalkeeper in a number of circumstances.
Argudo, he's also played every minute of this match. Holland, Argudo, many of the key playmakers have been Iron Men out there for 115 minutes now. It's a squad that I think is deeper than many would have estimated. The likes of Rosero coming off the bench to make an impact too. Andreas Cronus was very confident in his side's mettle. So far they've been tested on a number of occasions and passed every one.
So I did some digging on Ademar Chavez. It seems like we are not the only ones that are impressed with him. He was called into a US U16 camp in West Palm Beach, Florida, in February. Now, digging a little deeper, a team I coach actually played against him, and we'll leave the story there.
Fair enough. That's one that will remain off television. Cincinnati still searching for the breakthrough. Kiesel. Story of this match for large spells has been possessional supremacy by Cincinnati. Very little cutting edge to show for it. We've seen more semblances of final third build-up and inventive passing as this match has worn on. It's still lacking that ruthlessness in front of goal. Kiesel. It's an errant touch. Aggie. Squirting it to Schaefer. A quick turn on the edge of the area. And now some space for Pancyprians again to break. They just lacked that final ball to unlock Cincinnati on the counter. The game plan coming in was counterattack heavy. We've only seen it in spurts tonight for Pancyprians.
Only a couple minutes left, and both of these teams, once they're in their possession, need to focus on trying to get the ball forward.
Might become more route one. Aggie laying it off. Kiesel's cross.
Fails to miss the first man. Quality from the deliveries on this left-hand side from Kiesel needs to be a little bit better.
2 minutes plus stoppage time separate us from penalty shootout. And all of the parity that comes with it. The more experienced Pancyprian side has held its own against the vastly talented Cincinnati bunch. They must hold on for 2 more. Rosero. Calls for Mangione. Machado. Kiesel. Calls for Luis Argudo. And he can run it clear only momentarily. Final minute of the 120. Hearing word it will be 2 minutes of added time after this, so more time to weather the storm if you're Pancyprians. Chavez.
Oh. He's been the bright spark in his second half, for sure. 16 years old. Coming onto the pitch in the second half, 16-year-old for me has been the standout performer. You can see the ability he has, you can see the idea is right, just lacking a little bit of finesse in that final pass, but the ability to take on players is evident, irrespective of their age. If you're old enough, you're good enough, and 16 years old, he's coming and shown that he's more than good enough, and he'll continue to refine his talent as he continues to grow and get older.
It is just his 3rd professional appearance.
Yeah, I think he's shown a lot of, there's a lot to be optimistic for in his journey going forward. Players who have the ability to glide past and beat defenders like very few and far between to come by, and some unique talents.
We are beyond the 120-minute thresholds. We heard word moments ago it will be 2 minutes from our 4th official. A night in which neither side's been able to unlock the opposing back line. It would be fitting that we're destined for penalties tonight. Holland. Forced wide. And it does roll out of play for a goal kick. And now Holland is slow to get up.
You would think so, but no.
He's off the field, he crawls himself back onto the field so he could delay the restart. It's fair sportsmanship. At this phase of the game, I think you look out for everybody. It's been a well-contested first round of the Open Cup. Neither team have been able to find the back of the net so far in regular time. I think we are destined for penalties unless something magical happens in these final seconds.
There were 2 minutes added on at the end of the 120. Rosero links with Fatazada. Perhaps their last break forward of the night.
There's no numbers up in support.
A rare instance in which you don't see Joe Holland involved on the counterattack.
Frustrating start to the season continues for FC Cincinnati too. What they may have believed would be a good opportunity to get 3 points in regulation time and build confidence and momentum and a little bit of positive energy has turned into be 120 minutes of frustration against an amateur Pancyprian team.
Cincinnati squad that has not scored in its first 300 minutes of the year. Can they change it here? Headed towards Ikoba, right into the gloves of Levine, and that may be our last involvement. That is the final whistle. Penalties await as we determine who will progress to the second round of the Open Cup. A frustrating night for FC Cincinnati 2, a goalless drought that extends to over 300 minutes, but industrious in defense from Pancyprians, Chris.
Yeah, I think the Pancyprians will be happy. They're going to penalty kicks. They still have a chance of advancing to the next round despite possibly a little bit of a passive performance for FC Cincinnati. I think they'll be very frustrated, and those frustrated emotions may potentially carry through to the penalty kicks, which is a dangerous emotion to carry.
Time to take a look at our highlights from extra time, the second half. There were moments both ways. It's safe to say Cincinnati had the better of the chances, though.
Yeah, the game opened up a little bit. This was Caicedo strike from distance, tight angle. Thought he could have potentially squared it for Ikoba, but chose not to.
The other way, Argudo and Holland at least causing some danger.
Holland drives in here, latches onto the loose ball, but unfortunately unable to test the goalkeeper, Walters, with his strike.
Chavez really began to run the match for stages in that extra time period.
Yeah, continuously cut inside, trying to whip those bending crosses for Ikoba, making runs at the back post, but the timing and the connection just wasn't there tonight.
And then you saw Holland from afar launching there. That was probably the best look of the second half of extra time for Pancyprians. But other than that, very little going forward. And well, that sets the stage for the ultimate tension. Penalty kicks. Before we get there, though, we will step aside. No score at the end of 120 minutes. We need spot kicks to settle this first round clash. We're back here from Northern Kentucky University, where a penalty shootout awaits between FC Cincinnati 2 and New York Pancyprian Freedoms. FC Cincinnati 2, a team that competed in a number of penalty shootouts a year ago in MLS Next Pro. In Open Cup play for Pancyprians, it's the first penalty shootout since the second round of the 2011 U.S. Open Cup, where they fell to FC New York 6-5 after a scoreless draw. So unfamiliar territory for a side making its first Open Cup appearance since 2016. We will see how they fare. Well, Cincinnati will take the first penalty kick tonight. And it will be Tega Ikoba who will step to the spot against Josh Levine, who experiences maybe the biggest penalty shootout of his career. So it is Akoba, the striker, who was frustrated for large spells of the 90 minutes. Went just 1 of 2 on penalties for Portland Timbers 2 a season ago. Akoba against Levine to begin our shootout. And just sneaks it in.
I'm not sure that was the most convincing penalty, but found its way into the back of the net. And Akoba hits the back of the net for the second time tonight. The first time was disallowed for a very close offside.
Well, that sends Joe Holland to the penalty spot, the standout performer for Pancyprians in his first taste of Open Cup action since 2019. Will square off against Paul Walters, who had very little to do tonight, so it should be a very interesting scenario for him.
Holland taking his time to place the ball, calm, composed.
Holland played all 120 minutes tonight. Holland converts, and a well-taken penalty at that.
Experience, speaking volumes here, just confidence, assurance, execution. Solid penalty from Holland.
Even if Walters had guessed the right way, he probably would have had very little chance. That sets the stage for Ademar Chavez, who was the standout performer throughout the bulk of extra time for Cincinnati 2.
Stepping up, telling the rest of his teammates, get out of the way, I'm taking this one. Brave young player.
His first professional penalty.
Look where he's standing.
And Chavez goes for placement, and a well-struck penalty at that.
Converts like a veteran, sends the goalkeeper the wrong direction. Just rolls it into the side of the net.
16-year-old playing well beyond his years tonight. Luis Argudo, the former Columbus crewman, against FC Cincinnati 2. "29 years of age, played many years in the MLS against Paul Walters, the 20-year-old goalkeeper. And he hits it off the crossbar. Advantage Cincinnati.
Sees this one ricochet off the crossbar and head back to him. Lashes out in frustration. Advantage is now strongly in favor of FC Cincinnati.
That sets the table for Juan Machado, who can really put the pressure on Pancyprians here.
As we mentioned, the number of substitutions we had may lead to you maybe don't have your first choice penalty takers on the field, so it's really Russian roulette what happens in this situation.
Machado did not take a penalty in 2024 for Cincinnati 2, despite featuring in 9 matches. It's Machado against Levine. And just sneaking it underneath him.
Doesn't want to dance too early. The penalty kicks. The game's not over yet, but doesn't necessarily hit it with a ton of power, but a lot of accuracy into the corner. Levine goes the right way, but just unable to get anything on the border. Careful dancing too early. Careful, careful.
Junior Rosero now to the spot for Pancyprians. A player known for his dynamism up front. A bona fide goal scorer, trying to keep Pancyprians at least within striking distance here. And he drills it with ferocity.
He did well when he came into the game tonight, Rosero, and indicative of his performance. Drills it home with confidence into the back of the net. Keeps Pancyprians in the game still.
Brian Schaefer, the experienced center back in his second year with FC Cincinnati. He missed both attempts last year for the orange and blue. He can push Pancyprians to the brink, or ever closer at that.
Is history the best predictor of the future?
We will learn very soon. Levine got a touch to it, but it wasn't enough.
It was close, it was close. He may have missed his previous attempts, but on this attempt, Schaefer puts it into the back of the net. Strong advantage now for FC Cincinnati 2. Pancyprian need to score to keep themselves in this penalty shootout tie.
Jack Sloyce will handle the burden of that.
If they miss, it will be all over.
Fordham University graduate needs to score to keep Pancyprians afloat. And he tucks it in the top corner.
Does well here with a short run up. Just guides it into the top left-hand corner. Gives Walters no chance. And a little finger wave for his efforts.
Cincinnati can still win it, though. It is Brandon Christel, the substitute.
The PK that could seal the deal and send FC Cincinnati into the next round of the US Open Cup.
His first penalty kick for FC Cincinnati 2. In his first involvement after coming on as a late extra time substitute. Christel against Levine for the victory. And he skies it. There is life for Pancyprians.
Just hit the target here. He's already sent the goalkeeper the wrong way. Just opts for power, not much accuracy. A moment that could have sealed the victory for FC Cincinnati, but unfortunately, a lifeline for Pancyprian, and they're very much still in the game.
And it's the experienced Jordan Bylon to the penalty spot. Spent the bulk of the night in defense, but a leader back there. And if he scores against Paul Walters, we are going into added kicks. And Bylon does score. We are all level.
All tied up after 5 PKs into sudden death. Now we're really going down the depth chart in terms of penalty kick takers.
Well, there's certainly composure about the much older Pancyprian squad. And it's Will Kiesel to take the penalty. Made his first 2 pro appearances of the season in his first 2 next pro matches. His first pro penalty against Levine. And he hits it off the post. Pancyprians can win it.
Big moment coming up here. Keeper goes the right way. Ricochets off the post and out. The tables have turned. Pancyprians now have the opportunity.
It is Jens Hoff, the Michigan product, a man who has battled through so much adversity with injuries throughout his college career to get to this point. He can secure the cup set with one swing of his boot. Hoff against Walters. Hoff converts! Pancyprian pulls the cup set. New York Pancyprian Freedoms through to the second round.
Pancyprian Freedoms live to fight another day, another big cup upset in line with the history of this club. FC Cincinnati 2 have nobody to blame but themselves. They had the chances in the game, they had possession, they even had the upper hand in the penalty shootout. Just lacked that killer instinct to finish it off. And it came to bite them back in the final kick of the game.
In their first US Open Cup berth since 2016, Pancyprians advance in a match in which they were on the back foot. They battle through the penalties, and Jens Hoff tucking it underneath Paul Walters to win it. Best sport in the world, my friend.
Expect the unexpected. Cup competitions, it's always going to be a upset. It's win or go home, and unfortunately, in their own home, FC Cincinnati will be going back tonight.
You see all the chances early on for FC Cincinnati too, but couldn't break through. And ultimately, that frustration carried over into penalties and could not finish the job.
Yeah, the quality inside of the 18-yard box throughout the course of the game wasn't terrific from either team. Hence, we were 0-0 and went to additional time. No goals in additional time sent us into PKs. And as we well know, anything can happen at that point, and it did.
So many chances in the second half for Cincinnati. Akoba, the free header. This was the most glaring. He's just unable to put it on anywhere but the goalkeeper. And that was the unfortunate story for Cincinnati. The other way, half chances for Pancyprians. They were not fully out of it by any means.
Yeah, it was just the final quality in the 18-yard box that wasn't there tonight for either team.
See Pancyprians having to work through a slew of opportunities. Mangione whistling that one wide at the near post. So many chances, half chances that they just couldn't put on target. Mangione very involved. Caicedo, you think he should have crossed this?
Yeah, it's a very tight angle to beat the keeper from there, and Levine does well pushing it away, but Ikoba was in the box all unmarked.
And then into penalties, Kiesel and sudden death kissing it off of the left post, and that set up Jens Hoff, who delivered underneath the outstretched arm of Paul Walters to send Pancyprians to the second round.
Remember, I warned your man about dancing too early throughout the course of the penalty kicks, and I don't think you're dancing anymore now.
They are not dancing. They, in fact, are dancing out of the competition despite doubling up Pancyprians in shots and bossing the possession tonight.
They had the possession, they had the shots, just lacked a little bit of quality. For me, Chavez was still the player that shined the most throughout the course of regular time. Exciting, bright prospect to look forward to. For New York Pancyprian, congratulations, into the next round.
New York Pancyprian Freedoms advancing to the second round of the U.S. Open Cup for the first time in 9 years. The club with such a storied history off the boot of Jens Hoff advancing here in penalty kicks in the first round of the U.S. Open Cup. For my broadcast partner, Chris Nurse, I'm Sam Goldfarb, saying so long from Northern Kentucky, where the cup set takes center stage tonight.